Hey everyone, it is late at night and I am Norman. A while ago I saw a video discussing Swatch watches, and they approached them as what they technically are: inexpensive, throwaway fashion watches. And this is a classification that makes sense. These watches are not produced for watch nerds, just like movement watches or Michael Kors watches aren't. They just aren't. But there's something different about Swatch watches, and it's kind of difficult to articulate it, and of course with Swatches there is the nostalgia factor, but I think there's something more, almost like a magic to them. Tonight we're going to be discussing 4 watches that have a sort of magic quality to them, so let us begin. I've mentioned swatches, and those are the first watches that I want to look at. There is a heavy dose of fond memories packed into these watches, so I have to temper that aspect as best I can. And I can understand that for people who didn't experience Swatch watches in their youth, they are just throwaway watches. However, if you look at similar affordable plastic watches, I feel like Swatches have that something that makes them stand out. Their high acrylic box crystals, their cool lug teeth, their fun colors and dial designs. Swatches are more than their parallel peers. Next up is GShock. Another watch that rises above its peers is the GShock. These are considered by most to be a required staple in any enthusiast's collection. I personally don't actually own one at the moment. But in the past, I've owned a few, and they're perfect tool watches, indestructible, and great looking. As with Swatches, if we look at GShock's peers, we see that they just don't have the magic that GShocks do. They're just rugged, plasticky watches, but somehow GShocks are more. I agree that most collections would definitely benefit from having one of these beasts in them. Next up is the Rolex Explorer. There are a number of truly iconic pieces from this brand, as you well know, but I feel the Explorer rises above even those. That's not to say it's better necessarily, but there's something magical about the Explorer aesthetic. Whenever I see Explorers or even inexpensive homages to it, they get my attention. The Explorer is just a perfect storm of watch design. The 36mm case size, 20mm lugs, the smooth angled bezel, the large legible Arabics at 3, 6, and 9, the triangle at 12, and grudgingly, I have to admit, the hands. I'm not really a watch bracelet kind of a person, but when a friend lent me his Explorer, I fell in love with the aesthetic. So I hunted down a like-new Smith's Everest. I swear if you're looking at watches in a watch box and there's an Explorer or an Explorer style watch in that box, it will catch your eye. Oh, the next watch is a divisive one. The Museum. I get it, there are a lot of painful designs put out by Movado, and the brand is 100% fashion. I mean, they own Movement, Coach watches, Hugo Boss watches, Lacoste watches, Tommy Hilfiger watches. Yeah, but the Museum is something special. I've always been intrigued by the Museum, but not enough to look into getting one. Part of my hesitancy was the price. I wanted one, but not that badly. A year or two later, I decided to watch them on eBay. Prices there are much better. I went for a 38 ultra minimal quartz Museum black dial, and like the watches we've discussed so far, these pieces have a magic to them. They are the pinnacle of properly executed minimalist design. I love the Museum design so much I later went and bought a 36mm vintage one, and paid to put a sapphire crystal on it. And that watch calls to me often, even when I'm honeymooning with other watches. There are so many other brilliant watches I would love to include here. The Rolex Submariner, the Reverso, Cartier tanks, and I so wanted to include the Pole Router in this. But if we look at their peers, we see that they're surrounded by brilliant pieces. So more than magic, I think these watches are just absolutely brilliant design. Thanks for watching.